Hey, what's up guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the Skullcandy Hesh 3. Now these are wireless Bluetooth headphones. Now they can be found for around £80 on Amazon.co.uk and on Amazon USA for around $97. In terms of its competitors, in the UK we've got the Lindy BNX 60s, which have got Bluetooth aptX and active noise cancellation for the exact same price, which is £80. And then you've got the Sony Extra Bass XB650 BTs for £81. So in terms of its competitors, it's actually got quite a bit of competition, so it'll be interesting to see how this compares. In this video I'll talk about that and obviously its sound quality and whatnot. So first of all, let's talk about build quality. Now the headphones themselves have got a sort of pivot design, which means it's good for you to store them away, but they also can rotate in, which is quite rare for headphones of their size. When I say of their size, if you see on my head, this is how they look like. So they're relatively big-ish over-the-ear headphones, and yes, I have to stress they're over-the-ear headphones. Even with my massive ears, they do fit over the ears quite nicely. In terms of the build quality, so I've got no sort of complaints with that. It's great that the fact that they can be actually they're quite portable and they can be taken on the go. In terms of their comfort, they've got very nice soft pads which go around the ears, and there's also a little pad at the top of the headband as well, which aids for the overall comfort. This is actually a nice headphone, but the clamp is a little bit strong, and the reason I mention that is because if you wear glasses, I was just trying to look for my glasses, ironically I can't see them, but if you're wearing glasses, then you might find the clamping force might be a little bit too much when it's digging into your ears with your glasses being positioned there. So just bear that in mind if you're going to be using them for long periods of time. In terms of the isolation, which very much goes with the comfort, and the reason I say that is because the pads have got a very nice kind of a deep pad, quite a thick pad shall I say, and therefore they isolate quite well. Now they're not going to compete with the Lindy BNX 60s because they don't have active noise cancellation, but in terms of passive noise cancellation they do a decent job for isolating you from the rest of the world or ambient noises. Just bear in mind there's no active noise cancellation. Moving on, in terms of the build quality, now I did read on Amazon a few people complaining about the plastic design, and in all honesty, a lot of portable headphones have a plastic design, and there's a few reasons behind that. One, because of weight. The headphones don't actually weigh that much, which is great, but as it doesn't weigh down on your ears or on your head, and therefore it's not going to feel too much of a burden. Plus, if you want to go running with these, I would have no problem running around with these. They are a little bit bulky for runners, but nevertheless, if you want to do that, you can. Now, people did complain about the build quality, and it does have a plasticky sort of feel to it, but again, it's to be expected with headphones which are portable and made to be taken on the go. So I've got no real complaints myself, but I've just thought to emphasize something that I read on Amazon from user reviews. In terms of the build quality, I should mention, yeah, it is full plastic. It's just got a solid black finish on them, nothing too fancy. Now, in terms of connections, you can connect them via Bluetooth, and here, unfortunately, there's no aptX aptX codec. aptX, for those who don't know, has a higher transmission over Bluetooth, and therefore you get CD quality over Bluetooth versus getting Bluetooth which is compressed. And unfortunately these don't have aptX codec, and therefore the Bluetooth transmission you're going to get is not going to be as good as something from the Lindy BNX 60, which is audible versus aptX versus non-aptX headphones using the same drivers. So that's just something to bear in mind. There's also a 3.5mm jack if you were to run out of battery. In terms of the battery life, they're quoted around 20 odd hours battery life, so I'd have no problems with them. They also have a fast charging capability, which means that I think in around 10 minutes you get around 4 hours of listening time, which is great if you want to quickly plug them in and then head out. They use a micro USB connector which sits right by the 3.5mm jack. They've also got a microphone which is useful for calls, so you can take calls directly from the headphones. Other than that, I've got no sort of complaints with the build quality design. I think they've done a good job. It's just the missing of aptX codec is a definite minus thing for me. There are built-in controls, plus and minus, and if you hold them it goes previous and next, and a play pause button, and if you hold that down also activates Siri, or in my case Google Assistant, because I'm using the OnePlus 5T. So now, most importantly, how does it sound? Now, I've previously reviewed Skullcandy headphones, or at least heard them as well, and I must say they're bassy, just much like their other headphones and earphones. The Hesh 3 is also quite bassy. It's not as bassy as some of the other headphones in their line, but it is a pretty bassy headphone. So therefore, if you're going to be wanting something with a lot of bass, then these headphones will trump anything else that I mentioned. Actually, the Sony Extra Bass, especially given the name, has a lot of bass as well. Now the thing I want to really talk about here is the bass quality. So of course it has a lot of quantity, a lot of bass impact, a lot of mid-bass impact, and a good sub-bass extension, but the quality of the bass isn't quite great because in the mid-bass frequencies there's not that much control, and the slam is a little bit wobbly, which means that if you're listening to a lot of bassy music, you will notice this versus another set of more accurate, precise bass sounding headphones like the Lindy BNXs. They will sound a little bit more accurate and a little bit tighter when it comes to their bass impact. Of course, it might not have the same quantity, but in terms of quality, I think they're good, but they're not as good as some of its competitors, let's put it that way. Now, due to the heavier emphasis on the mid-bass or just the general low-end frequencies, the mids take a heavy impact, and therefore you get a very V-shaped sound signature. Listening to Santana Africa Bamba, I've just had to look at my phone just to make sure, you can hear the voices at the back are quite pushed back, and unfortunately don't come out as much. That said, if you're going to be listening to R&B music, and for example, a recent song that's in the charts right now is 4 Days, 4 Days by... Oh, God, I cannot remember his name, and YG, but basically that song has a lot of bass, and you can really enjoy it with this, and the mids and should I say the vocals aren't as important in songs like that, and in this case the Skullcandy sound a little bit better, but again the quantity is there but the quality not as much, and as I said it does leak into the mid, so you get a recessed V-shaped sound signature. You can see a V kind of, or a V-shaped sound. Anyway, you know what I mean. Finally, in terms of the highs do extend relatively well. There's a good sort of extension. It does roll off at the top end, which is no surprise at this price range. That said, you get a nice sort of treble energy, and so if you want to be having your toes tapping and have a sort of excitement, then these headphones will provide that sort of excitement via the highs. And they're also not sibilant, which means that you can crank them up to louder volumes without having to worry about death-piercingly highs in your ears. The last thing I want to focus on, something I just remembered obviously, is the Soundstage. Now the Soundstage I felt was a little bit closed. Now it's no surprise they're closed back headphones with relatively small-ish drivers, and it's no surprise that the Soundstage is relatively closed. Now, is this a problem? Well, it depends. In all honesty, the music is there and it's not too closed sounding, but at the same time, I would have liked it to be just a little bit more open. In this case, these are better than the Sonys, but when it comes to the Lindy BNX 60s, I felt the Lindy BNX has just had that more space to breathe and just sound a little bit better. That said, instrument separation is good on them, and the tonality and just generally how it sounds, how it comes across. It doesn't sound too tinny or too artificial due to their plastic design. It actually comes out pretty good, but I just would have liked a little bit more width and depth in the Soundstage. So overall, in terms of sound quality, I think they're decent headphones. They're nothing to shout about. The thing is, in terms of its competitors, if you want a lot of bass, then the Sony Extra Bass headphones are going to give you that quantity and quality, and if you want something with a bit more mids or actually just more functions and features, then I'll choose the Lindy BNX 60s over these. So that pretty much leads me on to my conclusion, which you could have guessed this already, but overall I think the headphones are good. The problem is that they're a little bit too expensive for me to recommend. If I had to recommend a headphone at this price range, I'd go for the Lindy BNX 60s, or if you're really into bass and you really want that bass, and you're all about that bass, I know, shout out, you can get the Sony Extra Basses instead. Sure, they're going to be recessed mid-range, a bit like these, and it might sound a little bit close sounding, but they're going to be bassy and that's what you're looking for, then sure, go for that. So anyway, that's just my opinion. I can't say I can recommend the Skullcandys. They're decent headphones, don't get me wrong, but they're not specifically crazy in terms of design, so I can't really say they'll appeal to a certain audience. And more so, I can't really say that people looking for the qualities or the say active noise cancellation features, because it doesn't feature it, will be going for these headphones. So there we go, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review. If you have, make sure you give it a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in comments below what you think of the headphones and in terms of its competitors, and let me know what headphones you rock every day, be it earphones or headphones. I'll be interested to know. Alright guys, I've been Totally Dubbed. Take care and bye bye.